Today I'm on an exciting historical journey. I'm heading to Lieberken's Zest train station, just 15 kilometers away, to catch a train bound for Nijmegen. From there, I'll embark on an unforgettable 20-kilometer ride along the renowned F325 bike highway to Arnhem. Both Nijmegen and Arnhem rank among the Netherlands' oldest cities, steeped in centuries of history and heritage. Along the way, you'll discover countless historical landmarks and stories that shaped these remarkable cities. But there's more. Arnhem holds profound significance in World War II history. It was the site of one of the war's most dramatic and pivotal battles. Join me as I uncover the full story of this extraordinary journey through time, landscape, and memory. So, I've arrived in Nijmegen. According to many scholars, this city holds the distinction of being the oldest in the Netherlands, even older than Amsterdam. However, today I won't be exploring Nijmegen itself. Instead, my focus is on reaching Arnhem, my ultimate destination. Here comes our first stop, the Liberation Monument. This road is called the Normandy of the Netherlands. When Operation Market Garden stalled in late September 1944, the front line froze along the river Linge, cutting through the Betuwe and trapping its civilian population between two armies. For months, the landscape was subjected to artillery duels, sniper fire, and muddy, exhausting trench warfare made worse by autumn rain. This monument was an initiative of a citizen group named Exodus Comité in 2014 in memory of the veterans, war refugees, and civilians. Let's ride again and we will know more about Operation Market Garden within a few minutes. As I have reached Arnhem, let me share some fascinating World War II history about this city. It was the primary location of Operation Market Garden, a famous Allied military campaign. You may have already seen the movie The Bridge Too Far, depicting this historic event. And the main battlefield was the bridge which I just crossed. That was completely destroyed. In the autumn of 1944, the Allies staked everything on the boldest airborne operation in history. It very nearly worked, and its failure shaped the final year of the war in Europe. Operation Market Garden, launched on 17 September 1944, combined the largest airborne assault in history with a ground thrust through the Netherlands aimed at crossing the Rhine and outflanking the Siegfried Line. If it succeeded, the Allies would be positioned to drive into the industrial heart of Germany before winter. The war, Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery believed, could be over by Christmas. The operation had two interlocking parts. Market was the airborne element, 3 divisions, the American 82 and 101 and the British 1st Airborne, would drop by parachute and glider along a 100-kilometer corridor in the Netherlands, seizing a series of bridges over the major rivers and canals at Eindhoven, Nijmegen and Arnhem. Garden was the ground element, 30 Corps. The British Armoured Division would drive north along a single road through that corridor, crossing each bridge in turn and linking up with the airborne troops within 48 hours. The plan demanded near-perfect execution and relied on the Germans being unable to mount significant resistance. Both assumptions would prove dangerously optimistic. 2 SS Panzer divisions were waiting for them. The British 1st Airborne was dropped too far from its objective, the Arnhem Ridge, and only a small force under Lieutenant Colonel John Frost managed to reach and hold the northern end of the bridge. The rest of the division became pinned in the western suburb of Oosterbeek under ferocious German counterattack. At Arnhem, Frost's men held the bridge for 4 days against overwhelming odds before being overwhelmed. The rest of the 1st Airborne, encircled at Oosterbeek, fought a desperate defensive battle in the gardens and houses of the suburb. On the night of 25-26 September, some 2,400 survivors were evacuated across the line. Roughly 8,000 men were killed, wounded or captured. The Rhine had not been crossed. The bridge was rebuilt and named after Lieutenant Colonel John Frost. Market Garden's failure had profound consequences. The war would not be over by Christmas. The Wehrmacht, written off prematurely, proved capable of stubborn and effective resistance. The Allies spent the autumn and winter grinding through the Heartland forest and repelling the German counter-offensive in the Ardennes. The Rhine was not crossed until March 1945. Market Garden remains one of the most debated operations of the Second World War. Critics point to faulty intelligence, an over-reliance on a single road, inadequate radio communications, and drops too far from objectives. Defenders note how close it came to success and argue that the audacity was justified given the potential prize. Montgomery himself never fully accepted that the plan was flawed, preferring to blame the execution. A second Battle of Arnhem took place in April 1945 when the city was liberated by the British 49th Infantry Division fighting as part of the 1st Canadian Army. The inhabitants of the city, who had been forcibly evacuated by the Germans during and after the battle, returned in the summer of 1945. The reconstruction of Arnhem took until 1969 to finally be completed. I'm now heading to the Oostbeek Airborne War Cemetery, approximately 5 to 6 kilometers away. The cemetery holds the graves of 1,759 soldiers, the great majority of them men of the British 1st Airborne Division who fell during Operation Market Garden in September 1944. The cemetery was established by the Army Grave Service in the immediate aftermath of the battle on land that had itself been a killing ground. Many of the men buried here fell in the gardens, orchards, and streets of Oostbeek during the Encircled Division's final stand. Each year on the last Sunday of September, the people of Oostbeek hold an airborne commemoration. Local children place flowers on every grave, a tradition that has been observed without interruption since the liberation, passed from one generation to the next as an act of deliberate personal remembrance. It is one of the most quietly profound memorial ceremonies in Europe. It's time to head back home. I hope you enjoyed and see you in next ride.